when we get in the next few weeks dealing with the way to really solve this problem, that all my colleagues will help to really solve the problem, because there's not enough thinning money or treatment money or tea to spread in the globe to solve this problem unless we get a handle on climate change. Does everybody on the panel agree? Does anybody disagree with that? Does anybody disagree that climate change caused by humans putting CO2 in the atmosphere is one of the factors for the problem we're suffering here? Does anybody disagree with that? I guess everybody agrees with it. Mr. Rayberg, are you going to support a cap on carbon dioxide emissions so we can save our forests?
The devil is always in the details, Mr. Inslee. What is your definition of human impact on global warming? If you're going to suggest that the forests are turning the colors that they are because of CO2 emissions, I guess I have a problem with that premise.
Well, that's what I thought I was asking you. Do you disagree that our forests, one of the reasons our forests have such
You phrased your question in such a way as you asked if I thought there was a human element of CO2 and whether it had an impact on our temperature. And I cannot either agree or disagree, but if it is the factor that has created the problem we're discussing today, I would suggest not.
Well, the reason I ask you is that when I listen to your testimony, it's like the environmentalists are killing the forests. And I just want to ask you, do you agree with the proposition that humans' contribution of CO2 loads in the atmosphere are one of the factors that are causing climate change, that are causing one of the factors in the devastation of the forests that we're talking about here? Do you agree with that?
Why don't we go back to your initial statement? Do I think environmentalists are killing our forest? I think they're loving it to death.
Well, let me just ask you a question. Do you think that human-caused CO2 concentrations in the atmosphere are one of the reasons these forests are in such terrible shape?
I would suggest the forests are in such terrible shape because of a lack of management on the part of the humans that are in the agencies that are not given the ability to use their brains to, in fact, manage it the way it needs to be managed, whether it's selective logging, whether it's grazing management, whether it's prescribed burns, the continuation of the extreme environmental community in tying up in litigation, and you cannot deny that excessive litigation has in fact kept us from actively managing our forests the way they deserve to be managed.
What I want to know is, and you can take a stab at a yes or no answer, because I think this is an important issue in our ability to fashion some bipartisan response to what's really killing our forests. The environmentalists aren't there planting bark beetles in the forests. This problem is caused by climate change, where the winters are not cold enough to kill the beetles and causing the drought, which is making the trees less healthy and more susceptible to beetle infestations. And until we get a cap on carbon dioxide, this problem is going to worsen.
I would suggest more so.
Let me finish my question. Just let me finish my question. Do you agree that we ought to limit carbon dioxide emissions so that we can hopefully reduce the climate change that is making these forests susceptible to beetle kills?
I don't think anybody is going to disagree that to the extent possible, we as humans should eliminate as much pollution as we possibly can, whether it's our air, our water, our ground, and such. Nobody is going to deny that. But if you're asking whether I think that our forests are mismanaged, I do believe that to be the case. Nobody asks for cancer, and yet nobody stands in the way of a doctor trying to go in and take that cancer out. When you talk about the cancer of a forest, there are people that are litigating their way through the court system, keeping us from going in, cleaning out the dead and dying trees, and trying to eliminate the beetle-infested trees. That's what the hearing is about today.
So would you support some cap on carbon dioxide to try to reduce the threat that these forests are having?
Once again, I'm doing everything I possibly can on the Energy and Water Appropriations Committee as one of the members of that committee to fund through the Department of Energy everything we possibly can with sequestration, with biomass. We want a comprehensive energy policy. I think this Congress ought to spend its time on getting something that clearly understands nuclear, wind, solar, geothermal, oil, gas, coal, conservation, and grants and loans to help us invent our way into the next generation rather than spending as much time on a cap and tax policy that frankly isn't bipartisan because a lot of us have not been invited to the table.
So that was sort of a no. Thank you.
Mr. Inslee, thank you. Ms. Loomis?